The Circus House in New York has been lost to the ages. Dubbed the Circus House by urban photographer Bryan Sansivero, this abandoned mansion in New York looks like a relic lost to the past. The huge property boasts a main house, what appears to be a decrepit barn with overgrown grapevines, and a cottage. The journey you're about to take inside and outside of the property will fill you with questions. What did this house used to be? How long has it been abandoned? Who originally owned it? Looking at the outside of the Circus House, you can see nature slowly taking over the property. Ivy has grown up the walls, covering windows along the way. On the right side of the picture, the ivy has even started blanketing the roof. For as calm and oddly serene as this nature takeover might seem, the decay that lives inside these walls paints a much different picture full of colorful peeling wallpaper, oddly placed objects, and an underlying sense of dread. As we enter the Circus House, we first see a large room with a fireplace that leads to two other rooms and a staircase. The paint has completely peeled off the roof and walls, and the floorboards are warped and cracked. Here's our first peek at why Bryan Sansivero dubbed this mansion the Circus House. At the top of the staircase to the right is the entrance to a room. This room, although it's not entirely clear yet, has a circus theme. Every staircase in the Circus House has a story to tell, and this one happens to be one of the more interesting. We can't imagine what went through Bryan Sansivero's head as he approached to see each step decorated with a croquet ball. Here's our first full-blown look at this once lively room. Looking at the clues left behind, we can make a few stunning speculations. What makes this room so impressive is just how good its condition is, compared to the other rooms. One thing that stuck out to us in this room was just how organized these croquet mallets were. The balls seem to be thrown around haphazardly, but the mallets used to strike them are perfectly placed in their holder. A decaying pink room in the Circus House was made to feel brighter at one point with the placement of an open umbrella. Opening an umbrella indoors is considered bad luck, though, which the house has apparently seen a lot of. Let's venture outside of the main house right now to wander the premises of the Circus House. Our first stop takes us to an old play area, complete with a playhouse, slide, and swing set. There was a time when a young child sat in one of these swings yelling higher, higher, to the parent or babysitter pushing them. Now the only thing trying to get in the swing is a series of mangled tree branches. Making his way past the playground, Bryan Sansivero came across this fence. Fences like this could have been used for a few different purposes. If animals lived on the premises and were allowed to roam freely, this would ensure that they could not wander away. Continuing our tour of the property takes us to a barn. This area is in pretty decent shape, as nature has not taken over as much as in other places on the property. The actual nature of what this barn was used for, however, changed with every owner. Inside the barn, the truth about its final use becomes clear. In one corner there's a partially filled glass bottle next to an aging barrel. At the time the barn was abandoned, it had become a distillery. By taking a closer look at this distilling corner, Bryan was able to give us a better idea of what was used for making spirits here. It must have been a smaller operation, as there is the only aging barrel, meaning only one kind of alcohol was made here. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and in this case possibly even more in cash. The distillery at the barn was a winery. These bottles never got their labels and never made it to market, if that's where they were supposed to go. Hidden in a spot on the property and almost impossible to see is this house. Looking like it could be lived in today, it sits in stark contrast with the rest of the property. Stepping inside only further proves this point. One of the first things we see in the cottage are what can best be described as crests on the windows. Bryan Sansivero took pictures of two of the crests, and this is the first one. Here is the second crest, which gives us more questions than the first one. This explorer is from an unknown region and is carrying a flag with a giant ram on it. The main rooms of the cottage house are almost entirely made from dark wood. There is nothing in the way of decorations, and no signs of previous life except for a game of backgammon on the floor, just waiting for you to take a turn. Another room that has been kept in surprisingly good condition is the Cottages Library. We're guessing that is what this room was used for, from the giant bookshelf lined up against the wall on the left. Staying in the study, Bryan turned his attention to the bookshelf, which is actually split into two units divided by a window lined with wine bottles. The sun shining through the green bottles reflects an eerie glow onto the ceiling perfectly between the peeling paint marks. Now that we've revealed the secret of the winery, it's time to go back inside the main building of the Circus house. This is what the property looks like from behind. It's mostly flat and featureless and contains far less overgrowth than the front. The Circus house is full of staircases, and this one is possibly in the worst shape of them all. The stairs themselves look safe and stable, but the paint on the walls and the roof have created a scene straight from a horror movie. One of the most interesting rooms on our tour is also one of the most confusing. It really is impossible to know what this decaying room was used for. The curtains look like ones that would be found in a child's bedroom, although there is no sign of where a bed may have been placed. Every house needs a set of keys, and the Circus house is no different. While exploring, Bryan found these keys, each one labeled, allowing us to name each property correctly and learn what more about the Circus house's history. Here is one more angle from a familiar room in the Circus house's main house, this time from the back wall near the staircase. In the connected room, we see light breathing life into the decay, but in the immediate area, we see paint almost entirely peeled away in the shadows. Standing from the top of the staircase, an entirely new perspective is brought to this familiar location. The paint that has rained down onto the stairs like ashes is stunning to behold. Here's a surprise. The door underneath the stairs that could have easily been a closet actually looks like the entrance to the cellar. There are no coat racks, and the candle on the wall teases us that there is more to see. A spot we haven't explored yet is this baby blue room that could have been used for a number of purposes. It could have been a master bedroom, allowing the owner of the house warmth from a fire during the cold winter. This isn't the first fireplace we've seen, but it is possibly the Circus house's most revealing one. An array of colors is presented here, from the charring left on the bricks from years of burning wood to the white wall that cuts directly into a yellow wall, and finally the door curtains with streaks of pink. With a wider view of the umbrella room, one aspect we missed before becomes incredibly clear. Thanks to Bryan Sansivero, we can see a room perfectly split in half between the past and the present. This room provides quite a surprise. After seeing rooms with colorful patterns and single-color paint jobs, this is one of the first rooms where every surface is given its own personality through color. Taking a look down this hallway of the Circus house's main structure shows a frame of decay around what used to flourish. Directly to the left and right are yellow walls that have peeled away to reveal the primer underneath. This is the third and final room with a fireplace on our tour. This room is also the first one painted in green. Outlined with yellow, a greenish hue makes its home on the walls. We can't help but look at this room and think that a young child once played here. With the lively color scheme, it's impossible not to see the newest member of a family making this their favorite room. While most of this ceiling's paint is gone, the blue sun lighting the way for its occupants has stayed as intact as long as it possibly could. It might no longer be a guiding light for those looking for assistance, but it's not ready to set into the night. This shot by Bryan Sansivero shows a nice contrast between two rooms in the house that are painted with a brilliant imagination versus the bland halls, ushering residents to their destinations. The only thing every wall on the property has in common is peeling paint. Usually, the saying goes down the rabbit hole, but in this case, we think up the rabbit hole is more fitting. Considering the singular uniqueness of the Circus house property, it only makes sense that one of the most stunning pictures would be a look straight up the staircase. By taking a wide shot of this room, Bryan Sansivero was able to showcase just how large the rooms in the main house of the property are. In an earlier picture of this room, if you remember, it looked much smaller and cramped. As we take one last look at the barn that was turned into a winery, it's impossible not to notice just how alone this set of buildings looks. Once alive with the smells of grapes and oak wood, it has since given itself back to nature.